everyone, and welcome back to the 16 millimeter film crew. I'm Cindy.
And I'm Dale.
You can watch us on YouTube. You can like and comment on our YouTube videos and subscribe to our YouTube channel. You can listen to us everywhere podcasts are found at 16 millimeter film crew podcast. And you can visit us on our website at www.16millimeterfilmcrew.com. This week we watched Steve, directed by Tim Mylance. A head teacher at a reform school struggles to keep his students in line while also battling with his own mental health issues. This movie stars Cillian Murphy, Tracy Ullman, Jay LaCruco, Little Sims, and Emily Watson. So, Dale, what are your thoughts about this movie?
Thought it was an interesting tale. It's kind of the dual story of a educator slash principal going with their own personal mental health struggles while also providing an outlet and a resource and sense of understanding to the young men he's also responsible for. I thought that, uh, like even as I get older, I realize I might make the old boy complaint, the old person complain like, "Oh, the youth are are crazy, whatever." But then I do also understand I was like that at that age, and it's very few times you actually, especially people of color, we get that sense of empathy and compassion from usually educators in our lives. Usually, honestly, some of them are just there just to be there, and instead of actually caring about the students that they're educating and helping.
Yeah, that was really good. I thought that it's really unfortunate. It's interesting because the movie is set in, I think, England, so I think like how like young people who are dealing with like behavioral issues or mental health issues or other issues, how they're dealt differently from in the United States, but also like the similarities between the two. Like there are
Hmm.
oftentimes it's like these kids have like nowhere else to go and like they're put in the situation where like they have to be in these reform schools, but they're underfunded, the teachers aren't paid well, like, I think in England it's like council stuff, like where it's like the government kind of pays for some of it, but like if they want to shut off the funding, like that's it. Like no, like there isn't anything else
Hmm.
you can do about it. Um and I think in America, I think it's probably like a mix of both where some of it is government funded, some of it like you have to pay. It depends on like where you're going. Some of it you have to pay privately. So, but it's just it is unfortunate because it's like these kids are probably not getting like they're not getting like the best stuff because but then it's like people don't want to spend money on them because they feel like they're not contributing to society or whatever because they have different issues. So it's very sad. It's very sad like what these kids are going through. And also the fact that they probably have done things that they weren't supposed to and or committed crimes and stuff like that. But there isn't like in terms of like reforming, oftentimes it's just like you have to go to jail or prison and like
Hmm.
it's yeah. So that's the whole thing in itself. And I do like that this movie gets into those issues. Like they're what they're talking about. They're wrestling against like the fact that their school is getting closed, that they don't have any money. Their its documentary crew is like coming in and really kind of exploiting the situation, not even helping at all. Um, and it will be like a little thing that's tagged on at the end of the news, and then like no one will think about it again. And so there's like all of those things, and then also like the main character, Steve, played by Cillian Murphy, is dealing with his own mental health issues after he has a tragedy happen in his own life, and he's using alcohol and something else. I don't know what that was. I'm assuming.
Podium or
Oh, is that the thing that they use in the drink when they like mix it?
hmm.
Okay. Um, the most like does not do drugs person. I'm like, is that the thing that I heard in a rap song once? Yes. Anyways, so he's dealing with that stuff, and there's like very little stuff. Like that was what kind of shook me. Was like there's only like a handful of people like taking care of all these kids, and I'm like, I would also be drinking if like I had to deal with that. Like that is a lot to put on so few people, and they really care about the students, but like they're getting like little to no help. And it's
Yeah.
just like very tragic. But I think what's really nice about the film is that like Steve is like has this really good connection with all the guys, and everyone, all the staff really cares about them, but like because we're seeing the film through his perspective, he really cares about all the guys, and like he has a special connection with them. It doesn't seem like, he can like fix the situation of like they will be different people. Like that's not really what it seems to be the goal. It kind of just seems to like day by day, like just hopefully they'll do a little better today than they did yesterday, and like trying to get some progress. That seems like that's what everyone's goal is really. But um there is this one kid, Shy, who is like particularly like they have a good relationship, or they seem to have like a really good relationship leading up to the movie, the start of the film, and then a little bit in the beginning. But Shy's parents like are cutting off contact with him, so he doesn't have anyone, and that prompts like him regressing. And I think
That,
the progress that he's probably made. So it's just really, it's a good story because it's like it's not like things are like fixed and wrapped up by the end. It just is like because of the community that they have created, they're able to kind of just get through the hard parts. It takes place in one day, so you're not seeing everything else, but like you can see within that one day that like some connection has deepened. Some like these guys who are fighting with each other do actually care about each other, and it's like in the midst of a craziness of like basically the world turning their backs on these kids, like at least that they have this place for, I mean, I guess we can only assume a couple months because the school is getting shut down.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then that's another thing, like you have, like you mentioned, how this is like governmental in a way, whereas here you're kind of like you're a bad kid, you go to juvie,
Hmm.
and you're there in a detention center for X amount of like there's no like you honestly here you once you're in the system, you're in the system, and that's it. Like it's here, at
Yeah.
least there, you reform school year is an attempt. It's up to you to actually take advantage of the situation you're in. And like you mentioned, his relationship with Jai, once again, not I will say Jay. Uh, like Krugo, I'm probably pronouncing that last name wrong. Did an amazing job. You could really see
Hmm.
the emotion on his face, in those moments, which was very really moving. But he like their relationship, and like I said, all the boys' relationship there is clearly like I think he does a better job of like the hard part people have of like helping like young men, young women when they're dealing with stuff is they always believe they could fix anything. Like, oh, do this and you'll be fine. Like the I want to say that was with Emily Watson. She came as a therapist. She kept saying, "Oh, if you do this, do X, Y, you'll feel better." Where Steve just said, "I'm gonna give you room to breathe, and I'm just gonna talk to you like a regular person." Like, which one of the bigger boys, Jamie, where he's like, "Oh, I think Tupac can't rap." And like then he goes in this whole, oh, this person don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're talking about. It's like, I'm just winding you up on purpose. Like I'm hitting you at your level. And he's like, but that's what you gotta stop. You initiate a lot of stuff as well, but you can't take it. And Jamie goes, "Oh yeah, you're right." But then you also see Jamie recognizes it. But then when it comes to Shola, one of the teachers, and one of the boys, he insinuates that one of the boys attempted to rape her. And then when the boy's like, "Oh really?" and wants to throw hands, he ducks and runs. Like he can dish it, but he can't take it. And that's what Steve's trying to get through him in those interactions. Like you can't be the one to wind up everybody. And then once interactions happens, like with the young black man, or before when the documentary who comes in with I think it was Riley, where he's messing with Riley, and then when Riley fights back, he gets upset. Like you can't provoke people, and then when they retaliate, you get mad. And that's his continual like teaching with all these boys. Especially, I love the end, the journey of him like looking for Steve. Like some mental thing goes off in his head, like something is wrong in the midst of his high, and he instantly comes out of it, and he goes on a search for a young man, which is amazing to watch.
Yeah, and I didn't know how that scene was gonna play out. Like I didn't know whether or not Shy was, gonna actually do it or not. But I'm glad he did not.
Mhm.
Um, I think what's I think what's interesting is that like I wonder if the parents of these kids, like if they had noticed stuff when they were younger, um, and maybe like got them into some therapy or something like that, maybe that could help. Because it seems like it's not, it seems like it is like a lot of mental health issues, and I'm wondering like if that was, but I don't know. It's different in England because like they have free healthcare. So, but I don't know if that means that they can see a doctor. It just kind of means like you don't have to pay for it. It feels like they have to wait longer to get seen by people.
Mm,
So like even because I'm thinking like these are probably like working class families. They might not have the time or the money to like do
yeah.
all that. But then I'm also thinking like is it harder or easier to do to get seen by someone versus our system where it's like if you're in these situations, oftentimes
I
like
think I don't
you
know.
don't have the resources to like see someone.
I think it may be mixable because remember, though, a lot of it you could tell a lot of these boys are coming from somewhat middle class, lower middle
Yeah.
class, underprivileged backgrounds, and whether you're in the States or any wherever you are globally, when if you're in a certain economic situation, you get lost in the cracks, no matter what. Like England a couple years ago, they made like what cheap public housing at the tower, and they didn't
Oh,
update the sprinkler.
Grenfell,
Yeah,
yeah.
and they refused to update the sprinkler system. Then like all the building burned on fire, and every other public official was quick to blame somebody else instead of all of them recognizing it was their own failure that they didn't help these people. Like you get lost in the cracks, and it's like here, like I know me personally as like a younger black man, I'm thinking about it, like looking at my mental stuff, looking at how I view like creative outlets, and I like how my parents say you picked up on stuff quick, but you didn't want to really do it. Like I realize now as an adult, like I probably should have been tested as a kid. But then, the public health system kind of skews it. Oh, if you're a black man and you act out, we're not going to give you the chance and test you and see if you actually have these difficulties. We're going to label you a problem child,
Hmm.
and that be it. So I feel like these boys were regarded in that same way. Oh, this is your economic background. Cool, we won't give you a chance. Whereas somebody from a more posh background probably have those same difficulties, but they get all the help in the world. So,
Very true, very true. And that kind of came to the head when the MP, which was like a I guess like a congressperson here, that's the best I can think I can
like a
compare it to.
mayor, a
Yeah, like
mayor.
one of those people came and was trying to talk to them about stuff, and it's like you don't, you have no idea like what's going on here. Like
uh,
you're trying to get votes. Like these people are trying to save these kids' lives. Like it's you're totally misreading whatever is happening. Like no, like what are you doing here? It was so weird and
it
like
was two of them. Like the one that met with the teachers, he was like,
yeah.
every time I come here, I tell Christine, I tell Christine, I just tell Christine, and he realizes he has no substance. So he was like, no, Christine, you finish this for me. Let's continue the meeting, that kind of thing. And like they mentioned the other guy, he goes in, he's talking about, oh, when you get out of here and have your freedom, exercise it and vote for me. Like y'all both knew the documentary crew was gonna be here, and y'all took this and tried to turn it into like a voting pitch, and you showcased how out of touch and lacking of understanding you were to these young boys.
Yeah. So I actually really like that about the film is that they address a lot of these systemic issues head on. And I really appreciate that, as well as talking about, you know, the interior life of Steve and some of these kids. Like I felt like it was a good, like well-rounded of like, let's get into all of it. And I thought that they did a good job with that. And I think that like the editing was interesting. Like it felt fast paced and jolty, and it felt kind of chaotic, just as it probably would if you actually went to one of these schools for like a couple of hours. And I thought that that was a good choice. But also, they did some like stylistic things that were kind of different, and like some of it was like, eh. But other times, like when Steve is like crashing out, he's like gotten high. Shy has run away. Like and he's in the laundry room and there's that scene where it kind of seems like he's drowning and then he kind of reaches out and like you said comes out of that to go find Shy. Like I thought that scene was really well filmed and like it was an interesting choice to do it that way. So I thought like in terms of the editing and the cinematography, I liked how they kind of it was like fast-paced, quick cuts, but also just different stylistic choices that were interesting. This is the same director who did Small Things Like These, which we
Mhm.
also watched. Um, about another school, another reform school, except for that one was for girls and like terrible. But yeah, I thought that it was those are interesting choices for a movie that could just be like, because this movie reminds me a lot of Sing Sing. Like it has a lot of similarities of
Yeah.
like finding community in really like hostile places, in places where
Mhm.
people don't, where like the systems are saying we don't think that you're a human, go over there, and people still like finding their humanity and like trying to, you know, reckon with what they've done in the past and like progress. Like I thought that those two things, these two movies, like really reminded me of each other.
Yeah, like you mentioned one of the scenes, like I think like the drum and bass, like I do love like I love like I've editor mind in me, like these are one of the things I pick out when I look at movies, how everything is in sync uh thematically, like the drum and bass, like I love the UK drum and bass is very frenetic, very chaotic, very up tempo, and it matches like the chaos of the school. It matches the chaos of all these, the mental chaos of all these young men and Steve. And then and I love how all that like forms and puts together. And then I think there was one scene where they kind of matched the drum and bass, and they did a drone shot like flying into the school,
Yeah.
and the drone actually moved with the rhythm. And I love those kind of those things like give me goosebumps. Those and prickly things. I love those visual touches and thematic cohesiveness when they do that in projects.
Yeah. I thought this was like really interesting. And I think Cillian Murphy had actually produced this movie.
Hmm.
Um, and I like that, I don't know, it feels like once you win Oscars, like your career could literally, who knows what is going to happen next. There used to be like a more defined formula where it's like if you win an Oscar, like you have to just keep like doing kind of Oscar-y movies, working with all these big directors and blah 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 blah. Now it seems very different where it's like you can win one and then do whatever you want after that. It's
Yeah.
who knows what's next. But I do like that after they had the hype of Oppenheimer, he went and did something like this, which talks about an issue that's going on in the country that he lives in. And I think that
Hmm.
that is like really powerful and also like a really great way to use, the fact that you probably can finance movies and, do stuff like that. Like this wasn't the next the lack like the this wasn't the next movie that had come out after Oppenheimer. Small things like these
Yeah.
but it's the same director. So I think that like the fact that he used his time and his money and his star power to finance a movie like this to kind of get that greenlit and going, put it on Netflix so a lot of people can see it, like is a very to me like responsible and like cool thing to do when you have that clout because it's just like you could have easily just gone and done
Yeah.
another, big movie and got a great payday. But I think that like the fact that he did this was very cool of him. He's a very cool guy.
And this also him and Tim met Lance. He's
Hmm.
Belgian, but I think he directed the third season of Peaky Blinders. So and
Hmm.
this is like his like third project with Cillian. So I think they do have a nice cohesive like working with like, oh, you did, yeah, you're doing a movie? I did, yeah, sure, I'm down for it. Are you doing another one? I'm down for like who was I talk I don't know if it's you or somebody I was having a conversation with about how actors do like the big budget projects, but then they'll go and do like the small projects like
Hmm.
Scarlett Johansson doing Wes Anderson and then taking Marvel's money. I feel like Cillian Murphy did the same thing with this. Like no like Chris Nolan's been he's in Chris Nolan pictures but never been the character in them, and then Chris was like, I finally got a role for you and I wrote specifically for you that I wanted to play in Oppenheimer. He does Oppenheimer. He goes, you know what? I'm still gonna do the small pictures, from Ireland and UK that grew me to this level. You know, and like you said, a lot of actors once they get the Oscar award, it's usually at one point in time it was just a steady upward trend. Now a lot more actors are kind of have used that cachet to do a lot more personal projects than they would in the past.
Yeah. So this
Yeah.
was very good. I would recommend
Mm-hmm.
people see
Really good.
this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. It was a pleasant surprise. And it shows you can, and even with all that stuff going on in the movie, like it shows like this movie is like about to an hour and 50 minutes, almost hour 45. Like it shows you can tell a cohesive story with um wonderful pacing and everything in a tight package. You don't have to like I think Hollywood tries to cram like I think the advent of streaming is trying to force everybody to go, oh, the movie has to be almost 3 hours long because we need those view numbers, over a set period of time. I don't think every movie should. If the story needs to be that long and the pacing if needed, sure. But I really do not think every movie nowadays that's been coming out needs to be 3 hours long.
Agreed.
I like so yeah. So on to a quick box office stuff. So this weekend is, a bit down from last week, about 5% down. I know it doesn't mean much couldn't the viewer side. But December is usually October is usually a mid slow month for movies, and you're off the summer high, and it's before the holiday movies come out. Um, um, and and also this time of year, there's only been about 4 or 5 horror movies that have come out so far. And it's also a credit as well that Hollywood is now spacing out all its movies, but they're not just mostly focusing on summer. So a lot of movies that traditionally would have only been in theaters during the summer are now being spread out across the board, which kind of, even though this month is down from our last month on average, it's been consistent for the whole year. And also another thing about we mentioned last week about how content creators have dominated both the film and TV space. YouTube is entering those spaces. Also piggybacks off of that to showcase that you don't really need a big star anymore for these movies. So of course, Warner Brothers. We mentioned Warner Brothers a lot. Like it's one of the big studios that constantly has these problems, and they haven't really been able to figure it out. So they're projected about to lose 100 million on one battle after another, even though, Leonardo DiCaprio's in it. We mentioned all the hype in our review about it. It's getting Oscar buzz. The film needed about 300 million to break even. Um, Given it was budgeted for around 130 million, plus about 70 in marketing, and then, but it only made about 200 million worldwide, so it won't get there theatrically. Um, Also, the same goes for A24's Smash Machine, which we talked about last week. Um, even it even though it's still in the top 10 for movies for this week, it dropped off 70%, which is a major drop from week one to week two, and it only made so far about 15 million total on a 50 million budget. This is off the backs of, we mentioned during the review, like Emily Blunt and The Rock to like $4 million checks for this movie. They weren't really making the high numbers those stars of their caliber usually, awarded. But it seems like these kind of Oscar baity prestige style films aren't creating, the urgency for theatrical viewing that they once were. And and piggybacking off another thought was the fact that, a lot of people traditionally wait for streaming. Like why would I go spend like $14, $15 in theater to watch a movie when I can always go back and watch a movie that I loved 4 years ago in the comfort of my own home for free, even though you're paying for streaming. So all those play into factor about this transition to not just relying on high budget and high star power movies. Hopefully, it might affect Marvel with what's the name of this new one? Doomsday. Hopefully, we'll see how that plays because that has a large cast on large budget. So we'll see how that trend continues coming out next year.
Yep. Well, our next story is about Netflix. So Netflix just inked a deal with Spotify to bring video podcasts to its platform. The deal comes after months of speculation and marks the streamer's official entry into the content category it can no longer afford to ignore. Subscribers will get access to shows from Spotify Studios and Bill Simmons' The Ringer. Um, this is interesting because I never saw Netflix as like a YouTube equivalent. I felt that they were very separate things, but it feels like from what I read, YouTube is like getting the lion's share of like viewership when it comes to video podcasts. So like you can listen to it. I do both. I listen to it depends on which podcast I like. And some of them don't even do videos, but For the ones that do, I watch it depending on what it is. Some I listen, so it's always evenly split for me. But I know for a lot of people, they like getting their podcast on, watching their podcast on YouTube. So the fact that Netflix is like, I'm gonna actually, um, I'm gonna let you finish, but let me, get some of this viewership is kind of interesting. And the partnership with Spotify, like, okay, so what does that mean? Like, are you subscribing to another subscription that bundles both of them when you have both of those subscriptions already? Like, I don't use Spotify, but like a lot of people do. So, would you be paying for Spotify and Netflix, or do you pay a higher price for both just to watch video content, which you could technically just watch on YouTube?
Mhm.
But it's I don't know if that's gonna speak to people, if people are gonna want to spend their dollars on that. I personally wouldn't, but it is interesting that Netflix is getting into the content space just because like I remember when like content creators were such a novelty, like people didn't like get it, people didn't care, people didn't think it was a real job. And the fact that like these big streamers are like, actually, we need to get these brands because that's what they are, like these huge brands and businesses on board because we can make more money that way. It's just interesting how time how things change with
Things
time.
change, yeah. It's a change because I know we can talk from this person. I feel like both Spotify and Netflix are doing a lot of power grabs, power moves, like you mentioned. I I've had friends who are like, oh, like listen, like even talking about our podcast, like, oh, is it on YouTube? I was like, yeah, it's on YouTube. Cool. I'll watch it there. Like people are more, what it seems like a lot of the podcast people are more privy to. I'll put it on YouTube, even if it's your TV or whatever, and watch that way instead of listening. I'm a person who's like, if I'm driving, I'd rather listen to something than I don't really need the visual side. But I think odds are this deal's probably going to go off to like Spotify does have exclusive contract deals. A lot of podcasts like Joe Rogan and whatnot. And the article does mention the ringer like Bill Simmons. I think those are going to be their main target for this, as far as Netflix saying, okay, your content now is going to be our on our platform. Particularly, this is me knowing how most of these might end up being sports podcasts. Like me, my honestly favorite show, which kind of functions as a podcast, is a sports show called Dan Le Batard, and they have a deal with DraftKings, and they're on HBO. HBO Max. Like you can watch their whole full like 2 hour radio show slash podcast on there. So I do think Netflix saw the success of that and is now pivoting that way. And this is also comes off news like Netflix is kind of is going to bring back K-pop Demon Hunters for Halloween. You know, they're kind of stalemated with the issues they've had with AMC. And AMC is the largest theater chain in the world, and it's also piggybacking off of Regal Cinemark, who are also bringing the movie back as well. And it's an amazing number streaming wise. Um, and it is kind of hard because the CEO, Ted Sarantos, still thinks theaters are an outdated idea for a lot of people. You know, uh, like, um, they spent hours like Adam Aaron, who is the CEO of AMC, tried to get the Irishman into AMC theaters. You know, the Duffer Brothers wanted HBO, not HBO, wanted Netflix to allow the Stranger Things finale a theatrical release, and they said no, because I guess both of them are trying to conserve and save their respective industries. You know, the CEO of AMC still wants to preserve theatrical exhibition, and Netflix wants streaming supremacy. Um, and this year has kind of been a historic low for a lot of studios, which I mentioned with those numbers. So Netflix, I think now is pivoting to find weekends where studios are kind of not dominating those space to give a lot of their platforms a dual dual opportunity at theatrical and streaming platforms. So it's not really a complete change, but it's something that's most likely going to be mutual beneficial to both AMC and Netflix going on to the future. So
In our next story, SAG-AFTRA is embracing the vertical boom. The union just announced a new verticals agreement for micro dramas under $300,000, specifically tailored to these portrait mode productions with their tight turnarounds and mobile first format. For underemployed entertainment workers, these verticals are proving to be a crucial lifeline. The union follows IATSE. Sorry, I still don't know the acronym, and the WGA West, which are also creating their own vertical guidelines.
Hmm.
So I don't really know about this. Are vertical shorts?
Shorts, TikTok, yeah, verticals. Like literal, that's literally all it is. It's like,
Okay, because they didn't say
yeah,
it. They could have just said
yeah,
that. I know what
yeah. They
that is.
they
I'm
could have
like
just said that. They were trying to be, make it seem like it's this
verticals or
fancy like verticals.
shorts.
Like
That's what they are.
I'm a chief engineer and sanitation janitor. Vertical is short. It's YouTube shorts. I don't know. I kind of find it like micro dramas under 30. Like who's making a vertical short for like $300,000? Like who's doing short videos for that long?
That's why this confused me because I didn't know what they were talking about and it
Like
didn't make sense. Like
like
I know on TikTok, like you can have series. Like there are people who do series. Like, will they have short form videos, but they'll be talking about a specific topic,
yeah.
or they'll do like comedy stuff. I know that, but like, what is this? What does this mean that you're embracing it? You're paying $300,000 to get like what
Is that the because it
a
says
limited
under, is it
series
under, so the short form vertical
from?
like has to under that to meet that requirement? It's
But who is that
yeah.
a thing? I didn't know that was a thing.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, like, so I've seen a couple times scrolling through like TikTok or Instagram. It's like it's something like called like Pocket like FM, I think, and it takes all these corny written stories and they live act them, and there's like 12, 15 parts of like the worst acting you've ever seen, the most nonsensical stories. I don't know if those projects take that kind of budget. It doesn't seem like to me. But to come up with this. Um, it's people you if I don't I guess studios want to pivot to like short form content now, but they also want actors protected. I don't know how this works because I don't see any major like whether film studio or TV studio adopting the policy of pivoting to short form content. I feel like it's mostly independent content creators like you, me, and whoever else are mostly dominating this space. And a lot of content creators, some do want to pivot into Hollywood and become SAG affiliated, but a lot of them aren't. So who is this for? Who are you targeting with this as well?
Yeah, that's a good question. I don't know. I guess like from I guess a lot of people do want to be in the entertainment business, and maybe this is just like they start on the internet as a way to get there. But still, I'm kind of confused on this whole concept. I have heard that the industry is like looking into getting like young people to create trailers. I think that's a good idea because I think that there are a lot of people who are making better fan trailers and actual studios are coming up with
Uh,
like
A lot of the general public also is better at casting a lot of these movies than people who are paid to as
yeah,
well.
exactly. So like I'm all for that. If y'all want to get incorporate more young people into doing those jobs that a lot of these older studio heads don't know how to do, great. But in terms of the vertical, I don't really get it.
Yeah,
Are they just trying to get them to be a part of the union? Is that what it is?
will short form content now be up for like Emmys and stuff like that? Like,
Honestly, anything can happen at this point.
yeah.
Like,
So James Norton is in talks to play Beatles manager Brian Epstein, no relation, in the Beatle documentary. Um, haven't heard much outside of this from the Beatles documentary. Looking forward to it a lot. Um, so he's playing the manager. I think he died in 19 uh he discovered the Beatles in 1961 and he was their manager until their death. No other details are released and because Sony doesn't want to comment. Um so then still the movie was announced last year and it's planned for release of 2018 and it's a four-part interconnected movie, so that's why the production cycle is so long because every individual Beatles member gets their own POV of the project. I'm honestly amazed at that concept, honestly. It's like we're gonna do one Beatles documentary, but it's four different POVs. And I wonder if once they wrap the full movie, will there be like a fifth version where it like combines all those POV experiences? I'm like this is an interesting concept to me as far as the more details of this project come out.
Yeah, this is I'm still interested slash confused about like how they're actually gonna do this because it's like, well, sure, you can do it from four people's different perspectives, but wouldn't you be covering the same events? Like they would have to do it in a different way, and I don't know how they're doing it because we don't know anything really about the script or anything. But it is I'm excited for this because the casting is starting to shape up really nicely. Saoirse Ronan is going to play Paul McCartney's wife, Linda. Like I screamed when I found this out. I'm so excited. I was like, Saoirse and Paul back together, like the Irish, they're dominating this, like they're killing it. That to me, that's perfect casting. I'm like, yes, that's exactly what I want. James Norton, the resemblance is good. They look similar. I think it would have been cooler to have a gay actor play the role because Brian Epstein was gay. I was thinking maybe Jonathan, oh God, I'm forgetting his last name. Bailey.
Hmm.
I thought maybe that, but then I was like, I don't know. I guess it doesn't matter technically, but like that would have been cool. I would have enjoyed that. Um, I'm still excited though. Again, I feel like they're tapping into the English actors who I like. So English
Yeah.
slash UK slash Ireland.
Yeah.
And I'm into that. Is Olivia Colman going to be in it? She better. Is Robert Pattinson going to be in it? I hope so. Like I just want them to.
Andrew Garfield needs to pop up somewhere,
Andrew
Florence
Garfield,
Pugh needs to pop up
Florence
somewhere.
Pugh, you need to be in the movie. Like I need my peoples in the movie. That's all I'm saying. Like
Yeah.
just get them in there. It doesn't matter what roles they're playing. Listen, I'm still watching regardless, but still, like as the casting continues, I'm like, let's fit our faves in.
I was reading something earlier. Somebody said it's like a renaissance for biopics, particularly musical ones. Like all of them have been like the last couple years have been amazingly well done. Yeah, Rocket Man. You got Hit or Miss, the Queen documentary, which but it's been a amazing successful run of how well these biopics have been made. The the I guess the opinion's out still on the Bruce Springsteen one, because it hasn't hit theaters yet, but people are saying that one seems to be good. I'm just off put by, watching Jeremy Allen White, like, and then hearing Bruce Springsteen's actually voice. Like, I'm still in the trailers, I'm still off put by that, but you will see how it works when the movie comes out. But I'm looking forward to the Beatles one, though.
Yeah, me too. My feeling about the musical biopics are actually opposite. Like I don't think that they're that good.
Mhm.
I feel like the Bob Dylan one,
Oh, Bob
this
Dylan one was hit or
this
was a miss,
Bruce
yeah.
Springsteen, I'm like, you cannot seriously be telling me that Jeremy Allen White is supposed to be Bruce Springsteen. I can't believe it. I cannot suspend my disbelief enough to believe that that is supposed to be Bruce Springsteen. Like, come on, that's an insane casting
True.
choice.
Yeah.
Like, but it's it's gonna do its thing. Whatever. I'm against it because I'm like, you cannot sell this to me. I am not buying it. I don't buy it. But I do think because the way Sam Mendes is doing this Beatles movie, it's so different that I feel like I don't I don't know how it could be necessarily bad,
Yeah.
especially when you have like the right ingredients. I feel like it could at least at a very least it'll probably be it might be mid, but like I can't see it being bad because I'm
No.
just like
I
it's just
mean,
so weird, like it's so different.
the only Beatles I'm iffy about as in this movie are not Ringo, because Ringo's alive, Paul's alive, would be George and John. Their POVs of their experiences, because your reference point is Yoko, and for a lot of Beatles fans, she's not a reliable narrator for a lot of those experiences and their family. So, knowing Paul might want like seems like Ringo's a guy who doesn't really care how he's viewed, and then but Paul's like I need this I need a sanitized, perfected version of myself at all times. So
And I hope that he doesn't get it. That's my hope. I hope that Sam is like, no, you
yeah,
can't, you can't do it.
so
I want this to be super honest. Like if this, and that's the only re way it would be bad in my eyes is like if they try to sanitize it.
you know,
Because then it's like,
and
okay,
that's
well, it's
where the
trash.
the king the queen one comes into mind because they
Right.
try to sanitize
Exactly.
that one a lot. Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Anyways, let's talk about what we've been watching this week.
Me personally, I watched The Long Walk, based on a Stephen King book. I think he said it was actually the first story he actually fully wrote. Why did I say writ for? Wow. Fully wrote in college. Basically, and he wrote it when he was young, so it's very much as the very typical dystopian, anti-authoritarian story of young men who are forced to walk almost 384 miles, which is the length of that first book, and the sense of camaraderie and a bunch of them share, and the friendship two of them gain, um, to the end where one of them literally realizes that his version of revenge won't work and he kind of self-sacrificed himself, and the ending is left very open to you to infer or to form your own opinion on as to what um the outcome was. um I liked it. It's probably one of the like I agree with Stephen King where he says a lot of the adaptations he gets of his books aren't really good. That's why he gives like the rights for them for like a penny if somebody wants to make it, because nine times out of ten it's going to be a shitty. This is one of the very few actually well done um books or stories that have been done. And it's clear kind of why it was chosen because it's kind of really hard to mess up the subject matter that and the everything that was set in the book. This one you have to try really hard to fuck it up. So yeah, I would still recommend everybody to go watch it though.
Okay. I watched After the Hunt, which we'll talk about next week. Um, that movie.
Hmm.
I have so many thoughts. Like, oh my God. Mm-mm. Anyway, other than that, though, I watched the Martin Scorsese documentary that is on Apple called Mr. Scorsese. It's a five-part documentary about like his entire life and work. And it has all of his collaborators, De Niro, DiCaprio, Day-Lewis, like everybody's in the documentary
Hmm.
talking about his career. It's very inspiring. I will say that. Like he is interesting. Like I didn't know anything about him really. Um, because I'm not always like as in tune with directors in their lives. I'm more in tune with the actors in their lives.
Hmm.
So I didn't really know anything about him. Learning about him, wow, what a life. He's gone through a lot. He's an interesting man, but a prolific filmmaker. Like I think even if like the great directors that we have now who are like younger and kind of coming up, directors who I really like and admire, it's still a different thing.
Hmm.
Like whatever those directors had back in the day, it is complete. It's just like a. I think it's just like more adversity and like they literally had nothing, so they had to like really work beyond hard to like get where they are. But it's inspired. Like I was so inspired watching that because I was just like, when you think about someone like Scorsese who made all of these really amazing like movies that if you go to film school, you'll study. It's references that like are in pop culture forever. Like all of that stuff was in like he just some of it like was adapted from books, but some of it he wrote himself. And just like his film language is like stuff that you'll see now. Like it's very influential. Those movies were extremely controversial when they came out. Like very controversial. People were so upset. Like Taxi Driver, Goodfellas, like people were pissed. But like I can't like you don't know anything. Like if a random person were to like look up what cinema, like his movies would just come up.
Yeah.
Like they are that impactful in terms of like the industry and pop culture. But to think that like he was, I don't know, in his late 60s when he won his first Oscar for The
Mm.
Departed, like when you think about that and think about the fact that he had been making movies since he was in college, like it just shows age doesn't matter at all. Like
Yeah.
if you think that you're not like things aren't happening fast enough or you are like behind other people, don't even think about that because like it literally took him into his 60s, closing in on 70 in order for him to win his first Oscar. Like time is a myth. Like just just do good work. Like and I think that that's what he did. Like he, I don't know. Because I've watched so many of his movies, I feel like most of us have, and like
Yeah.
I didn't even realize how prolific he was when I started watching his movies. But like looking back at the whole timeline of how things happened, and I think we talked about this before when I we talked about the Steven Spielberg documentary. But even then, it's different because I think Steven Spielberg's work was very much like everyone can go watch these movies. You know, it was a crowd pleaser, like blockbusters, like that was his thing. When
Yeah.
it comes to Martin Scorsese, he was much more grittier, darker. Like I remember like watching his films like Raging Bull and stuff. Like these people, the main characters of these films are terrible. Like they're very bad people. And well, he wouldn't say that, but I'm saying that. And like you would have to find the humanity inside of those people in order to like care. But like that's his thing. Like he likes making movies about people who are like morally gray, like who do things that are like objectifiable and like horrible, but you're supposed to find the humanity in them,
Yeah.
outsiders, stuff like that. And that's because like that's how he felt. And so even those movies were like very personal for him because like he felt like he can identify with these people and that we all have like a dark side to us, even if we don't want to admit it, and that we're all capable of doing bad things, which is true. So yeah, he's just like I left watching that just being like, yo, I really care about the stuff that I do, but I couldn't do what he does. Like he's he's on another level of like making like I don't know. The way that he storyboards and like how he make like he basically sets up the film in his mind before he goes to film it. Like he's just on another level. So yeah, never underrated, very inspiring story. He is kind of twisted, but also a cute little small man. And I like his granddaughter, not granddaughter, his daughter Francesca. She's cool. So that's what I got from that.
Yeah, and it's a testament to him because he's been like Hollywood, like talking about people, everybody's small projects. Like he's got his like major film debut was like 1976, 1970, 1967.
Hmm.
Like from like the late 60s all the way to like the the 2020s. It's crazy. That's a long career. And like you said, everybody can say they have four or five favorite, you know, Scorsese films. They're always gonna say Taxi Driver, Raising Wolves. Someone's gonna say The King of Comedy, Goodfellas. You're gonna say Casino. Gangs of New York,
Mm.
Aviator, Depart. Like more like our generation's probably gonna say the more recent stuff. Our older generation probably gonna say the older
No, mine's
stuff. Well, I mean, I
mine's
mean,
back there.
I
Top
mean,
four,
true.
go.
Yeah,
Top
mine
four.
top. I can't pick a top four.
Top four,
That's the
go.
thing. I
That's how we're
can't pick
wrapping
a
this
four.
up. Top
I
four,
can't.
go.
So, Taxi Driver,
Hmm.
The Color of Money,
Hmm.
um,
Okay, that's a deep cut. That's good.
um, I like Paul Newman, Goodfellas,
Hmm.
Gangs of New York, Wolf of Wall Street, and Departed. Like that's what I got right now. The only reason why I can't say that I don't want to I didn't include Kills of the Flower Moon because recency bias. It hasn't hit that point where I long to watch it again. You know what I'm saying? I didn't include Irishman because even though like my boy, it just the movie was too long as well. But that's not like the two more recent ones. Aren't my favorite, but like anything going back from like 2013 and back, like I will sit there if it's like on TV or on TNT. I don't care. I will rewatch that shit like no matter what.
Hmm.
So what are your
Yep.
top fives?
Mm. I have no, I don't think I've seen
Ah,
Casino or Goodfellas all the way through. I've only
really?
seen, no, I don't think I, anyway, Italian American is my favorite.
Hmm.
That is my favorite film he's ever done. And it's just a conversation between him and his parents. And I
Yeah.
love it so much. It's my favorite. The Departed's in there. Raging Bull.
Hmm.
This isn't in order of importance. This is just
Naming names. Yeah.
naming names. Three. I mean, this is four. I guess Taxi Driver isn't my favorite. I can't even say that. It's
I,
not my
f I
favorite.
feel like everybody has to say Taxi
They
Driver
say
because
that you're right, because
everybody,
it's like,
yeah.
yeah, exactly. That's why. It's like everyone's like, well, it's not my fave. Oh, what's Living in the Material World? That is the George Harrison documentary.
Mhm.
Banger. Um, and then the last one, I didn't like the movie. What's that movie that you just named? I can't remember anything right now.
With The
I didn't.
Departed.
No, I loved Departed. That's one of my.
Oh,
That's one.
Irishman.
No, what was the other one?
The two I
Uh,
just like kill
the
it
one
like
where The Wolf of Wall Street.
Wolf of Wall
Not a
Street.
huge fan of that one. Sorry. Um, Damn. I actually don't know.
You know why I like Wolf
I
of
don't
Wall
got
Street?
three.
Wolf of Wall Street is like so. Scorsese does very few comedies. The one he does, they're satirical black comedies, and that's why I love Wolf of Wall Street. That's why I like a king of comedy. Like they're like black satirical comedies, which it's something that's not predominantly in his wheelhouse. Like his movies, even though they're about mobsters and stuff, they'll have those quick, funny, haha moments. The crux of the movie isn't that off kilter, kind of thing.
No, yeah, I think
Yeah,
he's good at that. I just
yeah,
it wasn't for me. It
yeah.
wasn't for me. But
See, yeah,
it is good.
yeah,
Movies can be good, but you don't it doesn't have to be your favorite. You know what I'm saying? Like you can recognize this is a good movie.
yeah,
It's my favorite. Honestly, Killers of the Flower Moon was really good. Like I
yeah,
actually really liked it. I
yeah,
know it just came out a few years ago, but
yeah.
it's up there for me. I enjoyed that one.
It's getting up there like fine wine. And I honestly, when I think about it, I really should don't want to say Wolf of Wall Street because that movie has its own meme factory fan base who, for some reason, a lot of young like men in our like 30s have taken that and made that their whole personality.
Really? That's
Yes.
not good.
Like a lot of like if you're frequently online, like a lot of the younger crypto bros have kind of want to model their stuff like off of Jordan Belfort and stuff like that. They've taken a movie which is actually poking fun at the guy and tried to make it their whole personality and stuff like that.
You know what's interesting? It seems like young men, especially, have always taken the wrong message from his movies, like whether it's Taxi Driver or that movie or Goodfellas. Like they're not understanding that these people are,
They're not
they're
together.
they don't have good lives. Like
Yeah.
that's the whole point. The whole point is that like it shows the fun side to it, and then it shows how it's destroyed these people's lives. Like why don't are you guys like not watching the second half?
Yeah, is that movie and it's not a Scorsese movie, but that movie and American Psycho, like a lot of young men have
Yes.
embraced
Yes.
the Patrick Bateman lifestyle
Mm-hmm.
and aesthetic, not
Mm-hmm.
realizing that man's is crazy. It's not a person you should emulate, but
That's a whole that's a whole
that's a
other
whole
discussion.
another discussion. But yeah,
Teehee. Anyways, that's it from us this week. We hope that you're all doing well, taking care of yourselves. Make sure to check out all of our social media, support us if you can, and we will see you guys in the next episode. Goodbye.
au revoir.